Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Milan Shrevinsky. Donald Trump is arranging a trilateral meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Russian leader Vladimir Putin. That is one of the key outcomes of yesterday's meeting between the US President, his Ukrainian counterpart, and a group of European leaders. In addition, the leaders gathered in Washington, D.C. spoke about security guarantees for Ukraine, with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte claiming a breakthrough on the matter. Our Kyiv correspondent Oskar Katerji reports on the latest.
Well, it is the morning after the night before here in Kyiv, following a flurry of late-night diplomacy on Monday night between the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and US President Donald Trump, but also the involvement of European leaders, Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron, Giorgia Meloni, Chancellor Merz, Alexander Stubb. All of these people turned up in Washington to support Zelenskyy as he further negotiated with the US President about trying to bring a conclusion to the war here in Ukraine following that US meeting with Putin in Alaska last week. Now, the Ukrainians will be certainly encouraged by how that Oval Office meeting went. President Zelenskyy ducked and dived any hostile questioning that came from the assorted press, but also managed to respond with some jokes. A very, very different scene from what happened the last time President Zelenskyy was in that Oval Office. And it wasn't just the charm offensive that the Ukrainians will be pleased with, but also the messaging coming out of Washington. For one thing, the US certainly seems interested now, or at least is talking about potential security guarantees to make any agreement between Ukraine and Russia lasting and enforced by security guarantees that the Ukrainians have been asking for. Now, President Zelenskyy released a statement following that meeting. Let's take a listen to what he had to say on the matter.
We discussed security guarantees. This is a key issue, a starting point toward ending the war. We appreciate the important signal from the United States regarding its readiness to support and be part of these guarantees. A lot of attention today was given to the return of our children, to the release of prisoners of war and civilians held by Russia. We agreed to work on this. The US President also supported a meeting at the level of leaders. Such a meeting is necessary to resolve sensitive issues.
Now, following that, President Trump is reported to have said we could reach an agreement that could deter any future aggression against Ukraine. So that is something the Ukrainians are going to be pleased with and hope that they can get Washington to follow through on. Beyond that, an arms agreement was also reached, with the Ukrainians making the Americans agree to selling $90 billion worth of arms to Ukraine. They will be purchased in part by support from those European countries that visited Washington with Zelenskyy. Now, there's also been talk of a trilateral meeting that will be held within the coming weeks. That's according to Chancellor Merz, organized by Donald Trump between the US, Ukraine and Russia. Let's see whether Putin agrees to that. But beyond that, the Ukrainians will be pleased not just with this $90 billion arms deal, but also a further $50 billion agreement to help Ukraine build those domestic drones it's been using, particularly to defend its sky from incoming Russian Shahed drones. Now, the situation on the ground remains unchanged. Russia launched another barrage of overnight attacks with 270 drones, 5 cruise missiles and 5 ballistic missiles reported by the Ukrainian armed forces launched by Russia onto Ukrainian territory. So while this diplomacy continues to take place between Kyiv and Washington, Russia continues to strike civilian targets here in Ukraine. It's Oskar Katerji reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk is taking part in a Tuesday meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, a group of countries supporting Ukraine. TVP World's correspondent Sonia Agata-Biszczan is now in front of the Polish Prime Minister's office. Sonia, so what do we know so far? Has the meeting already begun? And what are the allies going to talk about today?
Hello, Jonas. Well, the meeting, which is supposed to start at 12 p.m., is certainly one way or another underway. And it will focus, as well as the following meeting at 1 p.m. with the European Council, it will focus on the Monday talks in Washington, which focused on the path towards peace for Ukraine. And let me just also highlight that 12 p.m. noon is, generally speaking, a busy time for the Prime Minister's office, as this is also the time of the Cabinet's meeting in which Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister, is not taking part because of the urgent online meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, which also highlights the gravitas of the situation and the importance of the discussions surrounding Ukraine. As a reminder, on Monday, Donald Trump, the U.S. President, hosted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, as well as a number of European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, even the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Finnish President Alexander Stubb. However, Poland was not represented, and probably that is an important question for Tuesday. Perhaps throughout the day following these meetings, which are now unfolding, we will find out more information about why that is the case, why Poland was not present in Washington. Weighing in on the whole situation was also the President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, who joined the sentiment that was voiced by other leaders and said that any peace agreement should include security guarantees for Ukraine, as any peace negotiations should also ensure that peace is long and just, and that just continues. Back to you.
Sonia Gatabisztan reporting there from the office of Poland's Prime Minister, with the meeting of the Coalition of the Willing going on right now. Sonia, thank you very much for joining us here today. And now we're moving on to our next story. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says a potential $90 billion weapons deal with the US could form part of Kyiv's post-war security guarantees once a peace agreement is reached with Russia. The proposed deal would complement US security guarantees that also include cooperation on expanding Ukraine's drone industry. According to the Financial Times, Kyiv is looking to purchase aircraft, UAVs and air defense systems as part of the deal. Specific models have not been disclosed, but Zelenskyy has previously said he wants at least 10 US-made Patriot batteries. The paper reports that the proposals also include a $50 billion deal between Washington and Kyiv that would see Ukrainian companies manufacture drones. Hungary's oil lifeline from Russia has been cut off, sparking alarm in Budapest and French tensions between Budapest and Kyiv. A Ukrainian strike on a key transformer station halted crude flows through the Druzhba pipeline, Hungary's primary source of Russian oil. While Moscow scrambled to repair the damage, Ukraine accused Hungary of stubbornly clinging to Kremlin energy, despite repeated warnings to diversify its energy sources amid the ongoing war in Ukraine.
Russian crude oil stopped flowing to Hungary and Slovakia on Monday morning after Ukrainian drones struck a pumping station of the Druzhba pipeline. Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó reacted with harsh words and even threats.
Ukraine has once again attacked the oil pipeline leading to Hungary, cutting off supplies. This latest strike against our energy security is outrageous and unacceptable. A reminder to Ukrainian decision-makers, electricity from Hungary plays a vital role in powering your country.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha responded by recommending that Budapest direct its complaints to the aggressor.
Peter, it is Russia, not Ukraine, who began this war and refuses to end it. Hungary has been told for years that Moscow is an unreliable partner. Despite this, Hungary has made every effort to maintain its reliance on Russia. Even after the full-scale war began, you can now send your complaints and threats to your friends in Moscow.
Ukrainian forces have been attacking Russia's gas and oil infrastructure for many months now, aiming to cut off the Kremlin's main source of income. Meanwhile, Hungary and Slovakia remain the only two European states which continue to import fossil fuels from Russia.
In the last few years, sanctions have galvanized Russia. So sanctions enabled functioning of an alternative system of payments, alternative system of logistics, which in fact has benefited third parties. So all keeps flowing.
The rest of Europe managed to find alternatives. For example, Azerbaijan, a country which used to belong to the Soviet Union and is now more than willing to sever its ties with Moscow. Also, on Monday morning, Russian forces hit a state-owned Azerbaijani oil depot in Ukraine's Odessa region. It was the second time in 2 weeks. Foreign Minister Sybiha believes neither time was an accident.
Moscow does this on purpose, acting against Azerbaijan's interests.
After the previous attack, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev signed an order to transfer $2 million to the Ukrainian Ministry of Energy. The two countries also began working on a natural gas deal on top of crude oil.
In the past, we used to say that Azerbaijan used to balance between US and Russia, but in the last 15 years, I would say, Azerbaijan has effectively started a new geopolitical game.
As long as Russian fuels are available, there will be buyers. However, as Hungary has experienced, access to these goods is more and more limited due to Ukrainian drones and international sanctions. For TVP World, Natalia Komarov.
That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay with us here on TVP World.